Hey gang, I'm Fahaam, your financial freedom guru. Let's turn your dreams into billionaire success stories. Today, let's dive into the fascinating and almost unbelievable journey of Haroldson Lafayette Hunt Jr., more famously known as H.L. Hunt, a man who went from being a restless drifter to one of the richest oil tycoons the world has ever seen. His story is one of risk, guts, timing, and the kind of bold decisions that only a few dare to make. He was born on February 17, 1889, in Carson Township, Illinois, into a farming family. Nothing in his early life screamed wealth or privilege. In fact, he had the kind of humble beginnings that most people would use as an excuse for never achieving greatness. But Hunt was different. He had a taste for risk and an eye for opportunity, even in his youth. He didn't complete formal schooling. He didn't walk into a cushioned job, but what he had was a gambler's instinct and a relentless hunger for more. As a young man, Hunt traveled through the American South and Midwest, living a nomadic life and making money wherever he could. He was known as a gambler, not just in casinos or card tables, but in the way he lived life. One of the legendary stories about him says that he once won a poker game and used those winnings to buy his first oil rights, an incredible tale that adds to his mystique. While some historians say this story was exaggerated, it symbolizes the way Hunt thought. Life itself was one big poker game, and he was willing to bet everything on one good hand. The real turning point in his life came during the East Texas oil boom of the early 1930s. At the time, Texas was transforming into an oil powerhouse, and people who were brave enough to invest in oil leases and drilling stood the chance of striking it rich. Hunt was not just brave. He was fearless. He used his skills in speculation, spotting opportunities others overlooked, and he eventually secured a massive portion of the East Texas oil field. This was no ordinary field. It was one of the largest oil deposits in the world, a resource so vast it could turn a regular man into a billionaire almost overnight. And that's exactly what happened to H.L. Hunt. Imagine a man in the depths of the Great Depression, when most Americans were struggling to feed their families, managing to secure rights to an oil field that produced enough wealth to rival entire nations. That was Hunt's genius, and his gamble paying off in the most spectacular fashion. The East Texas oil field became the backbone of his empire, and from that point onward, his life changed forever. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Hunt wasn't just an oil man. He wasn't satisfied with simply striking oil and sitting on his wealth. He built an empire with multiple companies, carefully controlling drilling, refining, and distribution. He was a master strategist who understood that wealth isn't just in finding resources, it's in controlling the entire chain that brings those resources to market. By the mid-20th century, he was one of the richest men in the world, often compared to John D. Rockefeller in terms of influence and wealth. His fortune was so massive that by the time of his death in 1974, his net worth was estimated at around $3 billion, which in today's money would translate into tens of billions. What made Hunt's journey particularly remarkable was that he lived by a philosophy of bold risks. He once said that success in business is largely a matter of being willing to take risks that others aren't. And his entire life was a testament to that philosophy. Where others hesitated, Hunt stepped in. Where others saw danger, Hunt saw opportunity. He believed in betting big, and for him, the gamble paid off spectacularly. But Hunt's life wasn't just about business. He was a man of complexity, controversy, and larger-than-life personality. He fathered 15 children, managed complicated family dynamics, and lived a lifestyle that kept newspapers fascinated. He became a political voice, funding causes and speaking out about his beliefs in free enterprise, individual responsibility, and conservative values. He was both admired and criticized, but nobody could ignore him. In many ways, he represented the bold spirit of American capitalism, daring, relentless, and unapologetic. Of course, his personal life had its own share of drama. Hunt had multiple families simultaneously, something that shocked many people when it came to light. His relationships were complicated, his children often battled for position in his empire, and after his death, the Hunt family was known for both incredible wealth and dramatic feuds. But even these controversies only added to his legend, making him one of the most talked about tycoons of his era. Let's take a step back and think about what his journey teaches us today. H.L. Hunt wasn't handed wealth. He wasn't born into privilege. He was a farm boy who refused to stay confined to the farm. He was willing to risk, to move, to try, to gamble, to fail, and to rise again. His story tells us that opportunities are everywhere, but only those who dare to take them can change their destiny. In his case, it was oil in Texas. In our time, it might be technology, real estate, online businesses, or emerging industries. The point is not what the opportunity is, but whether you're bold enough to grab it. Hunt's life also shows us the power of timing. Had he not moved into East Texas during that boom, his name might never have been remembered. Success isn't just about working hard, it's about recognizing the right moment to act. That's something every entrepreneur and investor should keep in mind. Timing can make the difference between obscurity and billionaire status. By the end of his life, H.L. Hunt had secured his place in history as one of the great American oil barons. He turned speculation into empire, he turned risks into rewards, and he turned himself into a symbol of financial daring. Even today, the Hunt family remains one of the wealthiest in America, with his descendants continuing to manage vast fortunes and businesses. His influence didn't just vanish with his death, it lives on in the wealth and legacy he built. Think about this, a man who once roamed the country as a drifter with little more than his instincts ended up controlling one of the world's largest oil fields and amassing a fortune so large it would last for generations. That is the power of vision, risk, and relentless ambition. For those of you watching, Hunt's story isn't just about oil or money, it's about mindset. It's about understanding that your circumstances do not define your future. What defines your future is your willingness to see opportunities where others see none, your courage to take risks when others play safe, and your determination to keep going no matter the setbacks. Hunt bet everything on his ability to recognize value before others did, and that mindset turned him into one of the richest men on the planet. So the question is, what's your East Texas oil field? What's that opportunity sitting in front of you right now that you're too scared to take? Remember, Hunt's story wasn't about being safe. It was about being bold. And in that boldness, he found his freedom, his wealth, and his legacy. When H.L. Hunt passed away on November 29, 1974, he left behind more than just billions of dollars. He left behind a roadmap of daring ambition, a story of a farm boy turned oil king, and a reminder that in life, fortune often favors the brave. His legacy continues to inspire entrepreneurs, dreamers, and risk-takers across the globe. And that, my friends, is why H.L. Hunt's biography is more than just history. It's a masterclass in wealth building, a lesson in risk-taking, and a powerful story that tells us financial freedom isn't about luck. It's about courage, vision, and relentless pursuit of opportunity.